Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and I'm here to review Lucy in the Sky, Natalie Portman's new space film directed by Noah Hawley. Now, this is Noah Hawley's first feature-length film. You may know him from TV, doing Fargo and Legion. And I had heard a lot of negative feelings about this film, but I wanted to go make up my own mind and see it for myself. Sadly, the critics are pretty spot on with this one. This one's a mess. Natalie Portman tries her best. The film surrounds Lucy Cola. It's based on a true story, so it says, but it's very loosely based. I went and looked up the story, and my biggest criticism is just how loosely it's based. They really sort of take so many creative liberties that just, to me, change the film for the worse, making things up, changing story aspects so much that it sort of misses the point of the movie, and the real story, which was a love triangle gone wrong. And I do believe someone with mental problems, the lead character, they've changed the name for the film, but the film itself just goes in this weird, slow direction. Natalie Portman does a pretty good job. I have to give her props. I didn't dislike her performance. And John Hamm gives a good performance as well. The movie starts off in space. She's an astronaut. She's a crane operator, and she's just loving the view. And that's the sort of the vibe we get. She's so good at her job. She's a fantastic astronaut. But then when she comes back down to Earth, she just cannot adapt to the normal goings. She has a scene later, John Hamm, where she sort of admits, man, I feel so small. Everything is just so much different when you're up there. You've seen God. You've seen the whole universe. Everything changes once you're up in space. And it's this interesting idea, this mental breakdown that she then has throughout the rest of the movie of how do you come back from that high of being literally that high of seeing the whole world and realizing how small we are and all that, stuff that messes with your mind. But everything I've looked up since about this, the true story, that's not really what happened. She literally just started, and the movie goes into this. It's a true story, so it's hard to get into too many spoilers with this because it's a real life. But John Hamm plays this other astronaut she works with, and Dan Stevens plays Natalie Portman's husband. And as soon as she gets back to Earth, she sort of realizes she's unhappy, and she ends up cheating on her husband with John Hamm's character, the sort of hot astronaut who sort of understands what her mental breakdown's like and how difficult it is, and so she latches onto him and becomes a little obsessed with him. And then she is trying to get back into space on another mission, and really goes crazy. And John Hamm and everybody sort of see it happening. And then meanwhile, we see John Hamm starts to date other astronauts, which makes her jealous. And it's really then the spiraling out of control of Natalie Portman. But it takes a really long time to get there. That's the biggest problem I have with the film. Two big problems. That sort of slow burn, in addition to Noah Hawley does this weird aspect changing throughout the movie, aspect ratio. He starts the movie wide when you're in space, and then when it comes back, it does this where it brings in literally the movie's done like that. And then there's really no rhyme or reason. Then it goes back to space and you see the bars switch back, almost like when an IMAX movie's going back, and then she's back on Earth and it goes like this weird vertical 4:3 ratio. And then randomly, without any rhyme or reason, it'll suddenly go to widescreen and then go like this, and you'll see certain shots like that. And it's there's just no reason for any of it. He just makes these creative choices, and you're just and it loses track, and then you don't know why certain ones, and then by the end of the movie, it does go full screen, and I really didn't understand the choice there. He was clearly going for something artistic that went above my head, and the other critics, so one thing when we left, we were all trying to talk what was the point of that? None of us could figure it out. It just made the movie that much more distracting and confusing. And it's really jarring at certain points. You're like, why am I not seeing the full screen? It's really noticeable. That and just the length. There's one shot an hour in. You'll know it. There's one shot an hour in that was fantastic. That was whoa. It looked like a cool music video in the middle of the movie, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. The only standout part. And Natalie Portman's decent. Some acting performances are good. But overall, I was really stuck with, why did we care about this person? We don't really know her before she goes to space, and then she goes on this crazy spiral, but it doesn't really feel like a mental breakdown. It feels like that's what happens when you go into space. And so I went and looked around, like, is that a common thing in space? And apparently it's not. A lot of astronauts are really mad at this movie because that's sort of implying that you go crazy if you go in space, if you're in space too long. And sure, some people have trouble getting back, but apparently that's not really an accurate thing. So it's a weird thing they changed for the sake of the movie. On top of that, they also changed a lot of real salacious sort of parts of the story that are real. She's sort of known as like the diaper astronaut. She goes on a cross-country journey and puts on adult diapers so she doesn't have to stop. And that became a very big point of the story of how people sort of heard about her in the media. And granted, I think the filmmakers were trying to like be nicer to her, but they don't really shine her in that positive light anyway. So it was a weird omission and then they add an older child instead of 3 child. She had 2 twins and a boy. And instead there's just one older child that she takes with her on this maddening journey that just makes us like her less. And it just was frustrating because if we had seen her more normal before and saw the downfall, maybe I would have been more empathetic. But instead, she's just sort of a workaholic that goes and does these things and then really makes some choices that are sad. I feel bad, but I feel bad more for her family. And then she goes crazy because she went in space is really what the movie's about. John Hamm ends up doing a really good performance. Zoe, what's her name? Zoe Batts. I can never get her name right. From Deadpool and Joker. That is Zazie Beetz. Sorry. Zazie Beetz plays sort of another astronaut who she gets jealous with mid-movie. And there was a really cool sequence underwater. They actually do this. When I actually met with a real astronaut, we reviewed First Man last year. I got to know that that's a big deal. So there is a lot of astronaut training. And there's some cool sequences like that I wish they just would have focused more on. Instead, it's like the slow spiraling out of control of Natalie Portman's character. And it's just frustrating because it starts off really cool and then it's slow. You realize the length. It just feels really like where is this going? And then, after about an hour or so in, you realize, oh, okay, now we're going to go to this is what the plot's going to gear up. And then at the end, you're like, well, okay, well, what was the point? What did we learn? It's a frustrating movie, to say the least. I wanted to like it more. I wanted to feel for her. I wanted to sort of deal with that sort of, infidelity and space travel and that emotional breakdown of, are you happy when you come down and you've seen the whole world for what it really is? That was an interesting idea. That was clearly what they were going for in adapting this story to make it its own. But I think they took too many liberties, and that's what really ultimately harmed the film. They apparently did an Law and Order episode. That's really what I think was good enough for this story. They didn't really need a feature-length film for this person. No offense. It just was very boring. It's just not. That's just boring's the wrong word. It was unnecessary. There's some interesting ideas, and from a filmmaking standpoint, I like Noah Hawley, but I really didn't like his cinematography choices. The aspect ratios, the pacing were really big problems. The performances were okay, but I'm definitely striving here to reach for positives. Overall, definitely not one you need to see right away. I think this is one they were pushing and hoping for Oscar contention. Maybe she'll get an Oscar nom for actress, maybe. But she's done better. Everyone's done better. Everyone involved in this film has done better, sadly. So, Lucy in the Sky, sadly without diamonds. I cannot give this one a good recommendation. It's a little bit of a bummer. That's my feelings, though. Let me know if you checked it out or if you have your own thoughts. You can hit me down in the comments down below or on social media at Andy Signor. I'll be back with more content tomorrow throughout the week. And don't forget to join us Thursday night, 9 p.m. for our first video club. It's going to be fun. We're watching The Cell. So join us, come back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with more videos soon. Good night, everybody.